In 1776, a group of American colonists declared their independence from Britain. They wrote that they held these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These words are so familiar today that we barely pause to ask where they came from and who thought them up first. The answer in large part is John Locke. Locke was born in 1632 in Rington, Somerset, England. He grew up during the English Civil War, a time of profound political and religious upheaval that would shape his thinking deeply. He studied medicine at Oxford, became a physician and later a political advisor, and spent years in exile in the Netherlands during a particularly dangerous period of English politics. He was a man who understood firsthand what it meant to live under the threat of arbitrary power. His two most influential contributions are to epistemology, the theory of knowledge, and to political philosophy. Let's explore both. In the essay concerning human understanding, published in 1689, Locke takes on a question that had divided philosophers since Plato. Are there innate ideas, knowledge we are born with, written into our minds before experience? Plato thought the soul had access to forms before birth. Descartes thought certain ideas, like the idea of God, were innate. Locke said, no, the mind at birth is a blank slate, tabula rasa. All knowledge comes from experience. He distinguishes two sources of experience: sensation, what we perceive through the senses, and reflection, what we observe of our own mental operations. From these two sources alone, through combination and abstraction, all our ideas are derived. There is nothing in the intellect that was not first in the senses. This empiricist position has profound implications. It means that human beings are shaped by their environment and education. There are no natural aristocrats, no people born with superior innate knowledge. Everyone begins equal in terms of cognitive endowment. This democratic implication of empiricism runs directly into Locke's political philosophy. In the two treatises of government, also published in 1689, Locke attacks the doctrine of the divine right of kings, the idea that monarchs rule by God's will and are accountable to no one, and constructs a theory of legitimate government that has shaped the modern world. Locke's argument begins with the state of nature. Before any government, what is the human condition like? Locke's answer is far more optimistic than Hobbes's famous war of all against all. In Locke's state of nature, human beings are governed by natural law, a moral order discoverable by reason, which tells us that we may not harm others in their life, health, liberty, or possessions. In this state of nature, all are equal and free. Crucially, in the state of nature, we have natural rights. These are not granted by governments, they exist prior to government, grounded in natural law. Three key natural rights: the right to life, the right to liberty, and the right to property. The last of these is particularly interesting. Locke argues that you own your own body and your own labor, and therefore you own the fruits of your labor. If you work the land, you have a right to it. But the state of nature has problems. There is no impartial judge, no reliable enforcement. Disputes arise, so rational people come together and form a social contract. They consent to give up some of their freedom in exchange for the security provided by political society. And this is the key word: consent. Government derives its authority from the consent of the governed, not from divine appointment or hereditary right. A government that violates its contract and that attacks the life, liberty, or property of its citizens rather than protecting them loses its legitimacy, and the people have the right to resist or replace it. This is a revolutionary idea. Locke published the two treatises anonymously for good reason. These were dangerous ideas in an age of absolute monarchy, but they electrified political thought across Europe and the Atlantic world. Thomas Jefferson drew directly on Locke when drafting the Declaration of Independence. The language about unalienable rights echoes Locke almost word for word. The American and French revolutions both drew on Locke's framework. Locke also wrote a letter concerning toleration, defending the separation of church and state, and arguing that governments have no business dictating religious belief. Compelled belief is not genuine belief. Persecution creates only hypocrisy, not faith. Civil government should concern itself with civil interests, life, liberty, property, and leave matters of the soul to individuals. This principle of toleration, now so widely accepted in liberal democracies that we take it for granted, was genuinely radical in the 17th century, when religious wars had torn Europe apart and when the connection between religious conformity and political loyalty seemed obvious and necessary to most rulers. Locke is sometimes criticized for limitations in his theory. His concept of property rights has been used to justify colonial appropriation of indigenous lands. Locke himself argued that land worked in the European way was properly owned, while land inhabited by native peoples was not, a deeply problematic argument. His toleration had limits. He didn't extend it to Catholics or atheists, and his state of nature, critics argue, is itself a philosophical fiction that smuggles in a particular set of assumptions. But these criticisms don't diminish his foundational contribution. Locke gave us a coherent, philosophically grounded account of why political power requires the consent of the governed, why individuals have rights that governments cannot legitimately violate, why religious and intellectual freedom are not privileges granted by rulers, but conditions of a civilized society. These are the core commitments of liberal democracy, and they are Locke's legacy. He died in 1704, quietly, at the estate of a friend in Essex. His last moments, by all accounts, were peaceful. He had lived to see the glorious revolution secure a constitutional monarchy in England, a government more accountable to law and to parliament. It was not yet the world he had imagined, but it was closer. Thank you for watching. Next time, David Hume, the greatest skeptic of the Enlightenment, the man who questioned causation itself. Subscribe and we'll see you there.